Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. What if the difference between a leader and a follower isn't talent, intelligence, or even confidence, but the way they think? Because most people believe leadership is something you're born with, a personality, a presence, a natural dominance. But that's not how it works. Leadership is built on mental traits, invisible patterns of thinking that shape how you act, how you respond, and how others perceive you. And once you see these patterns, you start noticing something uncomfortable. Most people are not lacking ability, they're lacking direction. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this better than most. He knew that power doesn't come from position, it comes from perception, control, and the ability to act when others hesitate. So if you want to understand what separates leaders from followers, you don't look at what they do. You look at how they think. And there are 5 mental traits that define that difference. Let's start with the first. Leaders think in responsibility, followers think in circumstances. When something goes wrong, what's your first instinct? Do you look outward or inward? Most people look outward, the situation, the timing. Other people, it wasn't the right moment. They didn't give me the chance. That's just how things are. And on the surface, those explanations make sense, but they also remove power. Because the moment you assign control to something outside of you, you lose the ability to change it. Leaders don't think like that. They don't ignore reality, and quite they interpret it differently. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they ask, "What can I do with this?" It's a small shift, but it changes everything because now every situation becomes usable. Every mistake becomes information. Every setback becomes direction. Think about 2 people facing the same problem. One waits for things to improve. The other adjusts, adapts, and moves. Same situation, different mindset, different outcome. Now ask yourself, which one do people naturally follow? Exactly. The second trait. Leaders are comfortable with uncertainty. Followers need clarity. Most people hesitate because they want guarantees. They want to know the outcome before they act. They want certainty before they move. But here's the reality. Certainty doesn't exist in real decisions. It only exists in hindsight. So if you wait until you feel ready, you'll always be late. Leaders understand this. They act without full information, not recklessly, but decisively. They move forward knowing they might be wrong, because they understand something most people avoid. Indecision is more dangerous than a wrong decision. Have you ever noticed how in group situations people naturally follow the one who decides? Not because they're always right, but because they move. Motion creates authority, hesitation creates doubt, and people feel that instantly. The third trait. Leaders control their emotions. Followers are controlled by them. This is one of the biggest differences and one of the least understood. Because emotions are not the problem. Reaction is. Followers react. They get frustrated. They show it. They feel insecure. They adjust. They feel challenged. they defend. And every reaction reveals something. It shows what affects them, what triggers them, what controls them. Leaders feel the same emotions, but they don't express them immediately. They process them. They create space between what they feel and what they do. And in that space, they choose. That's the difference. Not the absence of emotion, but control over expression. Think about the last time you saw someone stay calm in a tense situation. What did it feel like? Powerful. Not loud, not aggressive, but stable. And stability is what people trust. This is where real influence begins. Not in what you say, but in how you carry yourself when things get uncomfortable. If you're enjoying this and you want more content that actually helps you understand people, power, and yourself on a deeper level, subscribe, because this is where we go beyond surface-level advice. Now, the fourth trait. Leaders think long-term. Followers react short-term. Most people are driven by immediate emotions, comfort, fear, urgency. They make decisions based on what feels right now, not what works over time. And that's why they stay stuck. Because short-term thinking creates short-term results. Leaders don't ignore the present, but they don't let it control them. They think in outcomes. They ask, how does this decision affect me in a week? In a month? In a year? And that changes everything, because now you don't just react, you calculate. You don't just feel, you evaluate. You don't just respond, you choose strategically. Imagine this. Someone disrespects you. Short-term thinking says, react immediately, defend yourself, prove a point. Long-term thinking says, is this worth my energy? What outcome do I actually want here? Sometimes the most powerful move is not reacting at all. Not because you're weak, but because you're selective. And selectivity is a form of control. The fifth trait. Leaders create direction. Followers wait for it. This is the one that defines everything else. Followers look for guidance. They wait to be told what to do. They look for signals from others before they act. Leaders do the opposite. They set direction, even when they're unsure, even when others hesitate, even when the path isn't clear. They move first, and that movement creates alignment. Because people don't just follow strength, they follow clarity. And clarity often comes from action, not from thinking. Have you ever been in a situation where no one knew what to do, and one person just stepped forward and decided? What happened? Everyone adjusted. That's leadership. Not a title, not a role, a behavior. Now step back and connect everything. Responsibility over circumstances, action over certainty, control over emocji. Long-term thinking over short-term reaction. Direction over hesitation. 5 traits. Simple to understand, difficult to apply, because they require something most people avoid. Discomfort. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable. Acting without certainty is uncomfortable. Controlling emotions is uncomfortable. Thinking long-term is uncomfortable. Leading when others hesitate is uncomfortable. But that's exactly why most people don't do it. and that's exactly why it works. So let me ask you something. In the last week, how many decisions did you make based on comfort? And how many did you make based on direction? Because that difference is the gap between where you are and where you could be. Leadership is not about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself in a way that naturally influences others. And once you understand that, you stop trying to act like a leader. You start thinking like one, and everything else follows.